Banned in EU. How TikTok got hit with a $1.3 billion fine. What if I told you that one law in Europe is quietly breaking apart the internet as we know it, and that TikTok's $1.3 billion fine was just the warning shot? Stick around until the end because I'll show you which app is most likely to get banned next, and it's used by over 400 million people every day. In September 2023, the European Union did something it had never done before. They fined TikTok $1.3 billion. Not for dangerous content, not for copyright, for sending European user data to China. This was the second largest GDPR fine in history. Today, I will break down exactly what TikTok did wrong, how GDPR made it impossible to avoid, and why Meta, Google, and every app you use should be worried. Let's start with what actually happened. Between 2020 and 2022, TikTok was sending European user data to servers in China. That alone is not illegal under EU law. The problem is how they did it. GDPR says if you move EU citizen data outside the EU, you must prove it is protected to the same standard as inside the EU. TikTok could not prove that. They said they had technical safeguards. Regulators said those safeguards did not stop Chinese employees from accessing the data remotely. So in September 2023, the fine dropped. 1.2 billion euros, about $1.3 billion at the time. To understand why this matters, you need to understand GDPR in 30 seconds. GDPR has one core rule. Data about EU citizens belongs to EU citizens. Companies are just borrowing it. If you collect it, you must tell people what you collect, why you collect it, and where it goes. If you move it outside the EU, the new country must have adequate protection. The US and China do not meet that standard. That is the issue. When TikTok moved data to China, they triggered Chapter 5 of GDPR, and they failed the test. TikTok knew this was coming. In 2022, they launched Project Clover. The plan was to store all European data in EU data centers in Ireland and Norway. They also promised to create a new security structure so only EU-based staff could access that data. It was too late. The regulators said the violations happened before Project Clover existed, even after they found TikTok could not fully prove that China-based engineers could not access the data. So the fine stayed. Where does $1.3 billion come from? GDPR lets regulators fine up to 4% of global annual revenue. For TikTok's parent company ByteDance, that is billions. But they did not max it out. The fine was based on severity, duration, cooperation, and repeat risk. The result was 1.2 billion euros, plus an order to bring data transfers into compliance within 6 months. TikTok is not alone here. Meta got fined 1.2 billion euros in 2023 for the same issue, sending EU data to the US. Amazon got 746 million euros in 2021. Google has paid over 400 million euros across multiple cases. The pattern is clear. The EU is done warning. If your business model depends on moving EU data to countries with weaker privacy laws, you are a target. The EU can also order you to stop transferring data entirely. That is how apps get banned. So why should you care if you are not TikTok? Because this changes how every app handles your data in 2026. Companies are now forced to build data residency systems. That means your TikTok, Instagram, and Google data for EU users stays in EU servers. It is slower, more expensive, and it fragments the internet. For users outside the EU, it means less pressure on companies to protect your data the same way. Your data might still go to China or the US with fewer safeguards. For creators and businesses, it means if the EU bans an app, you lose access to 450 million customers overnight. And that brings us back to the question from the start. Which app is most likely to get banned next? It's WhatsApp. Meta's own data shows WhatsApp has over 400 million users in the EU, and WhatsApp shares data with Meta's ad systems in the US. The EU has already fined Meta 1.2 billion euros for doing exactly that with Facebook data. WhatsApp is next in line because it uses the same legal transfer mechanism. The TikTok fine was not about TikTok, it was about who controls your data. The EU decided it is not China, not the US, it is you. If you found this useful, subscribe to Banned In. Every Monday and Thursday, I break down one government ban on tech, finance, or AI and show you what it actually means for your money and your data. Next up, how India banned 50 million crypto users overnight. Comment below. Do you think the EU is right to protect data this way, or is this going too far?